Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into a really powerful text, the second sermon from Nahj al-Balagha. For those who might not know, this is the peak of eloquence, an amazing collection of speeches and letters from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib.
So you might be asking yourself, why should a sermon from over 1,000 years ago matter to us today? Well, here's why. This wasn't just any old speech. It was given right after the Battle of Siffin, which was a huge, really contentious moment in early Islamic history. And believe me, what it has to say about faith, society, and leadership, it's just as relevant now as it was then.
All right, so here's what's so fascinating. The sermon kicks off in a way you wouldn't expect. I mean, we're in the middle of all this political chaos, and yet it doesn't start with pointing fingers or laying out some battle plan. Nope, it starts with praise. It's all about laying this deep spiritual foundation before getting into anything else.
So he lays out these three main reasons for praising God. First, it's about asking for blessings to be completed. The idea that being grateful actually brings more good things your way. Second, it's about showing your submission to God's power. And third, it's for protection from sin. The logic is simple, right? Keeping God in mind helps keep you on the straight and narrow.
And this whole idea of submission, it's not about making some big, complicated show of it. It's really about sincere humility. There's this fantastic story about a famous scholar who sees an old man just doing a really simple, quick prayer. And the scholar, he just starts crying because he gets it. He realizes that this old man's simple prayer got to the very heart of the matter. It was basically him just saying, God, we are not rebels. That's it. That's the essence of submission.
Okay, so once that spiritual foundation is set, boom, the sermon takes a hard turn. It starts painting this really bleak, intense picture of what the world was like before the prophet's mission. This period is known as Jahiliyah, or the Age of Ignorance, and let me tell you, it was a mess.
And we're not just talking about a society without rules. This was a deep, deep spiritual crisis. Think about it. The very things that bind people together, faith, a sense of purpose, any kind of certainty, it was all gone. Just crumbled.
And the sermon really drills down on what this chaos looked like. It says guidance was basically forgotten. People were walking around in a kind of spiritual blindness. God was being disobeyed left and right. And get this, Satan was actually being supported, even celebrated. In a world like that, faith just didn't stand a chance. It was totally defenseless.
And this is where the language gets incredibly powerful. It talks about the human cost of all this. The word used is fitna, which means sedition, chaos, a serious trial. And the image it gives you is of people literally being trampled underfoot, like by the hooves of a wild animal, just crushed by all the confusion and moral rot. It's a terrifying picture, really.
But then, right in the middle of this absolute darkness, the sermon brings in the solution, the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. And that is the divine mission of the Prophet Muhammad. This was the game changer for humanity.
And the sermon just lays out this incredible contrast for you. It's like night and day. On one side, you've got total chaos, doubt, a world where faith is shattered. And on the other side, the arrival of clarity, of guidance, a divine light that was about to flip the script on everything. And this is so important. His purpose was crystal clear. He wasn't sent with a few friendly suggestions. No, he was sent with a shining light and a decisive command. The language is so sharp, it's like a sword meant to cut right through that thick fog of confusion and light up the way forward for everyone. Okay, so that's great. But you have to ask, right? What happens when the person who brought the light is no longer there? Does the guidance just disappear? Well, according to the sermon, absolutely not. It argues that this divine guidance was passed on. It was put into the hands of specific guardians to make sure that path stayed clear for all time. And these guardians have a specific name, the Ahl al-Bayt. It literally translates to the people of the house, and it refers to the Prophet Muhammad's own family. So the sermon is basically presenting them as the chosen ones, the people who are meant to carry on his divine knowledge and his role of leadership. And just listen to how they're described. I mean, the titles are incredible. They are called the place of God's secrets, the refuge for his command, the repository of his knowledge, and my favorite, the firm, unshakable mountains of religion. That's some pretty heavy stuff. So what's their job, really? What's their purpose? It's all about balance. The sermon paints them as this perfect middle way, this central anchor. They're the ones who correct people who go to extremes, but they also help those who are falling behind.
They are, in essence, the standard by which everything else is measured.
And all of this, all of it, brings us to the sermon's powerful climax. We have to remember the context here. This is being said right after the Battle of Siffin. Leadership is the #1 issue on everyone's mind. Everything that's been said up to this point, about praising God, about the chaos, about the prophet, about the guardians, it's all been building to this single crucial moment.
The sermon just drops this massive question, and it's aimed right at the heart of the conflict happening at that very moment. After laying out this whole divine roadmap for humanity's guidance, it basically asks, okay, so after all that, who's actually supposed to be in charge? Where does rightful leadership really lie? And then comes the mic drop, the final, absolutely electrifying point. He says, and I'm translating here, now the truth has returned to its people. Just one line, but with that one line, he's declaring that this chain of legitimate leadership which had been broken is now fixed, that truth itself